The description of Chotomama and the son's interaction mainly serves to blank, and I've covered up the choices so that we can form our own impressions about what we expect the answer to be. So let's break this question down. Let's rephrase it. We're looking for the purpose of the description of Chotomama and the son's interaction. Okay, so first of all, what is the son and Chotomama's interaction? How is it described? And then, what does that description do in the story? So let's go over to the text and take a look. And we know from our pre-read that this interaction takes place after the yogurts and sweetmeats bit. So let's start reading at line 41. The son and the daughter-in-law emerged shyly from the anteroom. They both stooped gently to touch Chotomama's feet and Sandeep's aunt's and his mother's feet, a traditional greeting and a mark of obeisance towards one's elders. "Oh, no, said Chotomama, struggling to keep the son's hand away from his feet. There is no need for all this. This was half a token gesture towards modesty, and half towards a new modern India, Nehru's secular India, free of ritual and religion. I have not met you for 2 years, Dada, said the son, struggling to get his hands near Chotomama's toes. You must not stop me. This was half a token gesture towards modesty, and half towards the old traditional India, Gandhi's India of ceremony and custom. First of all, what's going on in this little scene? So the son and the daughter-in-law, Chotomama and Mamima's daughter, and her husband are trying to touch everyone's feet, right, as a traditional greeting and a mark of obeisance, of great respect towards their elders. Chotomama doesn't want his son-in-law to touch his feet. He says it's unnecessary, and this is described as a gesture towards modesty and towards the new modern India. Whereas the son-in-law, the son here, says, you mustn't stop me, this is very important, because I haven't met you for 2 years, presumably since he got married. And the narration, Sandeep, characterizes this as a gesture towards both. So they're both making a token gesture towards modesty, which is the same thing that's happening in the gift-giving sequence. Oh, no, please don't. Or you really shouldn't have. But here, there's also this gesture towards old India, Gandhi's India of ceremony and custom. So I'm going to say that the purpose of this description illustrates the tension between the old India and the new. And it's kind of strange because the older people are trying to push India away from tradition, and the younger people are trying to push India back towards tradition. So let's go back to the question and expose those choices. See what we got. So my prediction is that it's going to illustrate something about the divisions in Indian society. That's my prediction. So let's see what the choices are there for us. All right. The description of the interaction serves to A, show how the characters diverge in their approaches to cultural practices. That seems pretty straightforward. I'm not going to cross that one off right now. B, emphasize the characters' complex relationship. That seems a bit weaker, but I'm not going to cross it off right now. C, stress the characters' misinterpretations of Indian history. Now, I think it's possible to get caught on this one because it mentions two figures from Indian history, both Nehru and Gandhi, but I think that neither of these characters are depicted as misinterpreting that history. And especially the word stress, it would suggest that it comes up multiple times, and I don't think that's the case, so I'm going to feel quite confident in crossing this out. Choice D, the description of Chotomama and the son's interaction mainly serves to depict how the characters created gestures that became routine. So the issue here is the word gestures, right? Because we see this multiple times in that chunk of the passage, right? This was half a gesture towards modesty, I believe is the phrase that keeps getting used. Frequently, choices will contain some element of the passage, so that if you're moving a little bit too quickly, you might get caught on them and say, aha, I recognize that, that must be it. But I think it would be difficult to argue that Chotomama or the son invented those gestures that became routine. The feet touching seems to be an established tradition that Chotomama is trying to move away from. And since it does seem to be an established tradition, neither should we be able to claim that the son invented or created it. So that leaves us with A and B. emphasizing the character's complex relationship or showing how the characters diverge in their approaches to cultural practices. Well, I think we can cross off B because I don't think that the characters have a very complex relationship. They haven't seen each other in 2 years. So even though this is a possibility, and even though in some ways their relationship does seem to mirror a tension between the old India and the new, I think that A is in fact much closer to the full truth. The main purpose of that description is showing how the characters diverge in their approaches to cultural practices. Chota Mama is making half a gesture towards the new India of Nehru, and the son is making a gesture towards the old India of Gandhi. So again, what I did there was I broke down the question into chunks, right? So making sure that we're talking about the description of Chota Mama and the son's interaction really helps me zero in on what the question is asking. It's not what the interaction itself serves to do, because that has a different meaning to those characters. What we're talking about is how the narrator describes it. And so first we have to figure out, okay, concretely, what's happening? Then, what is the description of it? And finally, third, what is the function of that description? I made an observation, I made a prediction, then I checked that prediction against the choices.